Welcome to NTD News Today. Here are today's top stories. President Trump welcoming Wall Street leaders to the White House for the official launch of Trump accounts. His comments on the new federal savings program for children. Plus, the president travels to Turkey for this week's NATO summit. What to expect? Netanyahu pushes back on claims of a rift with President Trump and discusses, quote, death to America, chants in Tehran, and a planned U.S. visit. Tyler Robinson, the man accused of killing Charlie Kirk, in court today. The judge will decide if there's enough evidence to send the case to trial. The Belgian Soccer Federation is challenging U.S. soccer players' red card suspension. FIFA's decision will allow the American forward to play in tonight's game against Belgium. And President Trump confirms he asked FIFA's president to review the red card.
This is NTD News Today, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Today's Monday, July 6th. I'm Stephanie Cox. American children now have a head start in life, courtesy of the Trump administration. President Trump marking the launch today of Trump accounts, investment accounts for kids that kicked off on Independence Day.
So after a truly historic weekend celebrating the 250th anniversary of America, today we're thrilled to officially launch the Trump accounts. On Saturday, July 4th, our administration deposited one-time seed contributions of $1,000 each into the Trump accounts of over 500,000 American children. It's a lot. And millions more will be getting additional contributions from generous donors.
Families can start contributing while using a new app to manage investments and access financial education. Children born between 2025 and 2028 are eligible for a $1,000 government contribution, while families, employers, and others can also add money to the accounts. The Treasury says more than 6 million families have already signed up. The administration says the program is designed to expand stock ownership and help more families build long-term financial security. President Trump is traveling to the Turkish capital, Ankara, for a key meeting with NATO allies. Ukraine remains at the center of NATO focus, while Washington pushes for its allies to take on greater responsibility in Europe. Here's that story.
President Trump arrives in Turkey tomorrow for the NATO summit. He will take part in a NATO leaders working session the next day around 11 a.m. local time at the presidential compound. He's expected to meet with Turkish President Recep Erdogan separately ahead of that meeting. The president is also scheduled to hold separate meetings with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Syrian President Ahmed al-Ashara before wrapping up the summit with a news conference. A major focus of the summit will be whether NATO allies are making progress toward higher defense spending commitments. The Trump administration is also pressing European allies to take on a greater share of the alliance's security responsibilities. U.S. Ambassador to NATO Matt Whitaker says this is the time for NATO allies to step up in Europe, with Washington taking on more responsibilities in other parts of the world. And a senior U.S. official says a review of America's military posture in Europe will also be a key topic. The official says the Pentagon's review could eventually lead to reductions in U.S. troops and military assets stationed in Europe. Ukraine, meanwhile, remains at the center of the summit's agenda. Ukrainian officials say 7 people were killed after Russian missiles and drones struck Kyiv early today on the eve of the summit. Russia says President Trump spoke on the phone with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Saturday.
The American president once again confirmed his readiness to work towards a rapid end to the fighting and find solutions to overcome the crisis. His special envoys, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, will continue their mediation efforts and will be ready to visit Moscow again at a convenient time.
Russian commanders told Putin Friday that Moscow's troops had captured the strategically important city of Kostiantynivka in eastern Ukraine.
No matter how much the Kyiv regime clings to its remaining fortified areas, our army will inevitably take them.
President Volodymyr Zelensky and Ukraine's general staff rejecting claims that Russia took the city. Zelensky says President Trump spoke to him over the weekend as well. The Ukrainian president is scheduled to speak at the summit tomorrow.
Russia launched a large overnight missile and drone attack on Kyiv early this morning. The strikes killing at least 12 people and wounding more than 50, according to Ukrainian officials. Ukraine's Air Force said it was unable to intercept any of the 23 ballistic missiles fired. They say they don't have enough U.S.-made Patriot interceptors. However, they were able to down dozens of other missiles and more than 90% of the drones. The strike comes ahead of this week's NATO summit in Turkey. President Trump is expected to meet Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky there. Zelensky is urging allies to provide more air defense systems. Meanwhile, Russia says it targeted military and energy facilities. Rescue operations continued across Kyiv today. The funeral of the late Iranian leader Khamenei continued today. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reacting to chants of death to America on the streets of Tehran and discussing an upcoming visit to the U.S., speaking on Fox News.
Well, we haven't yet set a date for the visit, but I'd like to see the peace with Lebanon advance, just as we advanced together, President Trump and I, the Abraham Accords, which brought 4 peace agreements that nobody believed were possible. We brought them together. Look, Iran is a nation of about 90 million. About 80% of them hate this regime and would like to see it gone. But you still have, quite a few million, a minority that they can bring to the streets. And what do they shout in the streets? I don't know if you heard this, Brian. They were shouting, death to Trump, death to me, of course, but death to Trump. We have to kill Trump, death to America. This is what is the face of this minority that has taken over, hijacked this talented people, the Iranian people, the people who fight for freedom, have been massacred on the streets for freedom. So I think that if the Iranian people were given a chance, they'd throw these bums out.
The Israeli Prime Minister says he expects to meet with President Trump during the visit to the United States. Netanyahu also discussing Trump's expected visit to Turkey. He criticized Turkey's President Erdogan. He accused him of openly calling for Israel's destruction, occupying half of Cyprus and threatening Greece. Netanyahu also rejected reports of a rift with President Trump over Iran. He says the two leaders remain closely aligned on preventing Tehran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. In sports news, the Belgian Soccer Federation is challenging FIFA's decision to allow American forward Folarin Balogun to play in tonight's game against Belgium. Speaking to reporters this morning in the Oval Office, President Trump detailed his phone call with FIFA's president to review the red card suspension. Take a listen.
Can you describe your phone call with Gianni Infantino about the red card? And Belgium is appealing the decision. What's your reaction?
You're asking me about the whole soccer thing? So, yeah, I did. I spoke to Gianni, who's highly respected, who's produced the most successful World Cup in history by, they say, 4 times. This isn't just a success. I asked for a review because I didn't think it was a foul. And, again, I'm good at this stuff. I didn't think it was a foul. I thought it was 2 great athletes that crashed into each other and got entangled. That was not a guy punching somebody in the face or anything that, would be different. And I think it's a terrible, if they wouldn't allow, a top player, maybe the best, maybe among the best players on the team to play, I think it would have had a big stain. And I related just that feel. I didn't tell him what to do. I can't tell him what to do, but and I don't believe he made the decision. I think it was a committee that made the decision, and they made the right decision because, number one, it wasn't a foul. And you want to see a game with your best players. You don't want to say, how would you feel if I took, we take Messi out? Look, he ran into somebody. Or we took Ronaldo, you bunked into somebody, we're going to take you out of a game. He's great. Or Harry Kane, we're going to take you out of the game, Harry, because you happen to hit somebody a little bit harder than you can't do that. If you would have taken him out, I think it would have really stained this incredible champion. We got to have our best players, and Belgium's got a great team, by the way. We got to have our best players, and they have to have their best. And if we win or we lose, it's fair. Otherwise, let's say we lost him and we lose the game. It would be a terrible thing. So I think they made a really brilliant decision.
Belgian soccer's governing body appealed after FIFA suspended Balogun's red card against Bosnia and Herzegovina. Balogun was ejected from the game last week after the video assistant referee found he stepped on the ankle of a Bosnian defender. The U.S. won the round of 32, matched 2-0. The Union of European Football Associations criticized FIFA's move as, quote, incomprehensible and unjustifiable. Belgian officials were preparing an appeal earlier today before a FIFA-appointed judge. A major legal step today in the trial of Tyler Robinson, the man accused of killing Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk. A preliminary hearing begins in Utah. Prosecutors will ask a judge to find there is enough evidence for the case to move to trial. They're expected to present DNA evidence, witness statements, autopsy findings, and video footage of the shooting. Kirk's widow and parents are expected to attend the hearing, marking the first time they'll be in the courtroom with the defendant. Kirk died after being shot in the neck at a Turning Point USA rally at Utah Valley University last year. The hearing will remain open to the public, though the judge has imposed strict courtroom rules and security restrictions. If the judge finds probable cause, the case will go to trial, where prosecutors would have to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Michigan Democrat Mallerie McMorrow has suspended her campaign for the U.S. Senate, the move coming just 1 month ahead of the state's primary election. McMorrow announced the decision in a social media post thanking her supporters, staff, and donors. She did not give a specific reason for ending her bid. Polling, though, shows McMorrow trailing her main Democratic rivals, with her support falling from about 28% in April to around 12% in recent averages. Her withdrawal leaves the Democratic primary as a two-way contest between former Wayne County health official Abdul El-Sayed and Congresswoman Haley Stevens. McMorrow said she will support the eventual nominee in the November election to succeed retiring Senator Gary Peters. New York City Mayor Mamdani condemning a shooting at a 4th of July cookout near Coney Island Beach. The shooting left 8 people wounded, including 4 children.
There is no place for this kind of violence in our city. We will not tolerate it, and we will fight it with every single tool at our disposal. As we mourn alongside those whose loved ones have been hurt, let us also recommit ourselves to the work of building a city where every celebration is safe and every holiday is joyful.
The police department has more work to do. We all have more work to do when we see 4 children shot in one incident celebrating the July 4th holiday.
The suspect remains at large. Police say the suspect was wearing a black mask and opened fire from outside the apartment complex before fleeing on foot. Investigators say there were no reports of any disturbance before the gunfire erupted. Police recovered a gun at the scene and are continuing to search for the shooter. The NYPD says a 21-year-old woman remains in critical condition. The other 7 victims are expected to survive. And a state of emergency is now in effect for Wood County in West Virginia as firefighters continue battling a massive warehouse blaze. The fire broke out yesterday at the People's Cartage Warehouse in Parkersburg. The emergency declaration allows state agencies to provide additional resources and respond to any public safety or environmental concerns. Governor Patrick Morrisey says the state requested help from the Environmental Protection Agency, which has deployed additional air monitoring equipment. According to the governor, the warehouse stores plastics and cardboard, raising concerns about hazardous smoke and runoff. Authorities are still investigating what sparked the fire. Governor Morrisey is urging residents to avoid the area while emergency crews continue their response. Super Typhoon Papi made landfall this morning near Guam and other Pacific islands, bringing winds of more than 150 miles per hour. The National Weather Service warned residents to take cover as the Category 5 storm lashed homes and buildings. The Weather Service reported that winds could reach up to 180 miles per hour, with gusts up to 215 miles per hour. Flash flood warnings are in effect for several islands, and tropical storm warnings are also in place, with the storm expected to bring at least 20 inches of rain. The U.S. islands in the area are a strategic defense hub in the Western Pacific and home to U.S. military installations, including Andersen Air Force Base, Naval Base Guam, and Camp Blas, a Marine Corps base. And ahead, targeting the faithful, killing innocent people, and destroying democracy, recent warnings from President Trump sound the alarm on a dangerous political movement responsible for 100 million deaths. And a rare submarine missile launch in the Pacific. China testing a long-range ballistic missile from a nuclear-powered submarine, prompting regional concern and criticism from U.S. allies. Welcome back. President Trump used 3 recent speeches to deliver his strongest warnings yet about what he calls a growing communist threat in the United States. NTD's Daniel Monahan has the key takeaways.
God bless the USA.
Speaking at a recent Faith and Freedom Coalition conference, President Trump saying communists always target faith.
All communists are godless. They don't believe in God. This is the most serious threat to our country since its existence, in my opinion. They want to end religion. They have to end religion because their ideology doesn't work. If you have strong religion, people like you that are so incredible and love our country so much and love God.
The president also discussing the recent rise on the left of democratic socialists, who he calls communists. He says the seeds of that can be seen in the last administration, which he accused of carrying out a reign of persecution and repression against Christians and people of faith.
They turned a nation founded on freedom for believers into a place where Catholics were targeted by the FBI, where pro-life grandmothers were put in jail for praying, and where members of our military were thrown out of the armed forces for their religious beliefs. The radicals responsible for these offenses would have loved nothing more than to mark America's 250th anniversary by driving God from our public square once and for all. They wanted to do that.
The president referring to cases involving protests against late-term abortion and COVID vaccine mandates.
And God bless the United States of America.
Speaking at Mount Rushmore, President Trump saying the American identity is under renewed attack.
A generation after we fought and won the Cold War against the menace of communism, there is now a resurgence of the communist menace in our land, including from newcomers to our country who embrace ideas totally opposed to our way of life and our great success.
President Trump saying communism has killed 100 million people just in the last century alone.
Communism is the exact opposite of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's death, tyranny, and the pursuit of evil. The godless communist morality states that anything is justified to bring about inhuman visions, and they have no respect for law, justice, principle, tradition, or your God-given rights. It's an ideology of mass theft, mass control, mass lies, and mass murder.
He said such doctrines have no place in a democracy because they ultimately seek to eliminate freedom in democracy once in power.
You can be loyal to Karl Marx, or you can be loyal to America. You can be a communist, or you can be a patriot. You cannot be both.
President Trump also criticized what he called Marxist narratives about American history, arguing they unfairly portray the nation's founders and heroes as oppressors while undermining America's future.
Our American ancestors did not shed their blood at Concord and Trenton, Gettysburg and Shiloh, Midway and Normandy, just so that a band of thieves, radicals, and lunatics could come in and loot, pillage our nation. Our heroes died to win, build, and to save, and to build truly a great country, the greatest country ever in the world.
Speaking at the Salute America celebration, President Trump saying American warriors did not fight communism on battlefields across the world just to have that menace rear its ugly head right back here in America.
We like to stop a threat like that immediately and before it begins. It's like a cancer. You got to cut it out. You got to cut it out fast.
The president says America stands at a pivotal crossroads ahead of the midterm elections.
He renewed his call to end the Senate filibuster and pass the Save America Act, saying the bill would strengthen election integrity and save America's democracy. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Thank you, Daniel. And on America's 250th birthday, 2 U.S. lawmakers renewed calls for Congress to take action to protect Falun Gong practitioners from persecution. Senator Todd Young urging his colleagues to continue to expose the Chinese Communist Party's persecution to ensure the CCP cannot intimidate people exercising their freedoms here in the United States. NTD's Melina Weiskup has more.
As America celebrates 250 years of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, lawmakers renew calls to combat human rights abuses by the Chinese Communist Party and its transnational repression on U.S. soil. Senator Todd Young said America was founded on the principle that every person is endowed with inherent dignity and the freedom to live according to their conscience. The senator said, at stake are core American values, including free speech, religious liberty, and the principle that no foreign authoritarian regime should be allowed to undermine our constitutional freedoms on American soil. He told Minghui.org, a Falun Gong website, that those values guide his work in the Senate. Young is a co-sponsor of the Falun Gong Protection Act, a bill meant to sanction Chinese Communist Party officials who engage in harvesting organs from prisoners of conscience. The human rights atrocity has continued for over 25 years.
Between 2001 and 2003, about 3,000 to 4,000 Falun Gong practitioners had died as a result of forced organ harvesting at a hospital she and her husband worked at in Sujatun, according to estimates by some of the doctors involved.
Falun Gong, also known as Falun Dafa, is a meditation practice rooted in the principles of truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance. Congressman Pat Ryan on July 4th told Minghui.org that he's proud to co-sponsor the Falun Gong Protection Act and stand with practitioners against CCP persecution today and every day. The combat veteran who risked his life to protect American values said, as we celebrate 250 years of this country, we also recommit to protecting the freedoms that our founding fathers envisioned. Senator Young urges his colleagues to continue to expose the persecution to ensure the CCP cannot intimidate people exercising their freedoms here in the United States. The Falun Gong Protection Act has passed the House, and a similar bill has advanced out of Senate committee, awaiting a final vote by the full body. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
A rare submarine missile launch in the Pacific. China says it has conducted a long-range ballistic missile test from a nuclear-powered submarine. It shot a dummy warhead into the Pacific Ocean in what state media describe as a routine training exercise. It marks Beijing's first launch since 2024. China says countries were notified in advance. The move quickly triggered concern across the region. Australia called the test destabilizing, pointing to China's rapid military buildup and lack of transparency. New Zealand called the development unwelcome, while Japan expressed serious concern after being notified of possible debris in its waters.
The Japanese embassy in Beijing was notified by the Chinese Defense Ministry earlier Monday about the planned ballistic missile launch. Japan conveyed its serious concern about China's increasing military activity. We will continue to do our utmost for the warning and surveillance activity while closely watching related activity.
The timing of the launch is also drawing attention, coming just hours after Australia and Fiji signed a new defense agreement. The two nations pledging to respond together to any common danger in the region. Australian Foreign Minister Penny Wong called the launch a reminder of the need for regional cooperation to preserve what she described as an ocean of peace. Analysts also note the presence of 3 Chinese satellite tracking vessels in the region, suggesting the test was closely monitored across the Pacific. 12 days after twin earthquakes shattered Venezuela's coastal destination, Small business owners along La Guaira's beaches are wondering whether tourists will ever return. Authorities say the death toll has now surpassed 3,000. Here's more.
Wrecked buildings loom over the tranquil shoreline in Venezuela's Catia La Mar, a reminder of the devastation suffered by small business owners who've built their lives around the northern region's beaches and restaurants. On June 24th, restaurant owner Diana de Souza fled to safety with her children as soon as the ground shook. Now, she says she sleeps in her restaurant's dining area after her home was destroyed as she figures out how to cope.
It's hard. Right now, I'm thinking about what to do, how to progress, how to eat, because I have a little baby who was left without a school, without a teacher, to find him a new school and teach him other things.
Along the beach, umbrella and chair rental vendors Rafael Guarino and Gladys Tovar remain at their posts, despite the lack of tourists. Tovar, who returned to the shoreline within days of the disaster, says she can't allow herself to be passive.
I have to do something because I'm not going to let myself die. I'm not going to wait for the government to come and give me food. I want to work. I'm used to working.
The area's economy relies heavily on tourism, luring visitors with its location on the Caribbean coast and its proximity to Caracas. For business owners like De Souza, whose income hinges on the return of visitors, the worry is apparent.
I think the moment will come when everything will return to normal, at least in terms of tourism, since we live from that, from selling food, from selling fish. We are entrepreneurs who have all our lives here in these premises. We don't know how to do other things but work for tourism.
As of Sunday, official figures put the death toll from Venezuela's twin quakes at over 3,000, with more than 16,000 injured and over 17,000 left homeless. Still, some locals appear to hold on to hope. Jackson Moreno owns an undamaged chicken restaurant that has been converted into a makeshift shelter. He says there is a spirit of collective defiance.
Although some people have lost their homes and others have not, for me, we all lost. But something we never lost and are not going to lose is hope. We are Venezuelans and we are from La Guaira. We are tireless fighters. We will always give our best with our heads held high and raise our flag.
Breaking now, President Trump speaking at a Rose Garden Club lunch at the White House. Check it out.
Lee Greenwood, wow, has he been great, huh? That's been with me a long time, that song. We won 3 elections with that song. And we have a country that's a much different place than it was just a short while ago. We have the hottest stock market in history. We did great the first time. We had the greatest economic numbers ever in history for the first term, and I think we're going to be blowing them away. What do you think, David? You agree? Goldman Sachs, David's here. We're going to be blowing them away. The numbers are all over the country. We have factories rising, $19.2 trillion investment. And please sit down, please. I appreciate you standing up. And anytime you want to stand up and cheer, that's okay too. But we have a lot of very big people here. They don't get up and cheer too often. But they're very happy with what's happening, and we're doing very well. As you know, Venezuela was amazing, and we're getting along great with Venezuela. We paid for the war many times over, and Venezuela's doing better. The relationship is very, very good, and we're doing very well with Iran. We wiped out their Navy, their Air Force, their radar, their leaders. We wiped out everybody. And then I heard they're doing very well. No, they're not doing well at all. They want to make a deal so badly. But we'll see what happens. They have to make the right deal because they cannot have a nuclear weapon. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. You want to see a bad stock market? Let them use a nuclear weapon. I'll show you a bad stock market, right? So, but we're doing very well. They've agreed to a lot of things that a lot of people said they wouldn't agree to. We'll see what happens. We're going to win one way or the other. We'll win the nice way or the not nice way. But I want to welcome everybody to the Rose Garden. What you're sitting on, the stone, is sort of a replica of the color of the White House. This was grass, and I love grass, but you know, the White House was built on a wetland, and the grass was always very wet. And if you were sitting here right now, your shoes would be destroyed. You would be extremely unhappy with me. You'd want to leave. The men wouldn't like it, but the women would, with their beautiful, I won't name the group, but you know who I'm talking about, those extremely high heels. They'd be sinking into, I used to go at the quicksand. It was a quicksand pit. So we've redone it. We built the Presidential Walk of Fame, which starts with George Washington and goes all the way up to Trump. And it's been so popular. We've redone the path. All the stone was broken. It was in terrible shape. And we put beautiful granite pavers in that will last. They said it has a 1,000,000-year life. They go a 1,000,000-year plus. They rate stone, you know, 35,000 pounds per square inch. So think of it. Nature makes a stone far greater than we can. There's no stone that we can make. There's no concrete or mix that we can make that's 35,000 pounds per square inch. But it's gotten rave reviews. I don't know if anybody's up and seen it, but this is the walk to the Oval Office and walk to the West Wing. And so we've done a job, and we've taken about 150 years of paint off of the columns and redid them. They were in very bad shape. You know, when you have 150 coats of paint on something, it's not good. You're supposed to, what they call, strip it. I don't use a word like that too easily. I will tell you, in construction, if you don't strip the paint off, it gets worse and worse and worse, and it was looking bad. You couldn't even see the details of what was up here. We very carefully stripped it. Now we're doing it. You notice the scaffolding on the front of the White House we're doing. A lot of love is being put in the White House because, frankly, it was treated very badly by a lot of presidents, had no idea. The last one definitely had no idea. Do you think he walked in the office and said, I don't like the shape of the columns? I don't think so, Biden. I don't like the shape of the columns. He didn't notice things like that. He didn't notice anything. But we're putting a lot of love back into the White House. This will happen every 200 years or so. You'll get somebody that will bring it back. But if you look at that wall right there, that beautiful wall of the building itself, that's been redone, and it's been done beautifully. And the best thing and the biggest thing that we're doing is we're building a ballroom and a tremendous military center. That was supposed to be top secret, but it's no longer top secret because no matter what you do, you get sued. They sue because they think the ballroom's too big, the ballroom's too small. I don't like the color of the ceiling. We don't like, you know, you just get sued. In this world we're living, especially if your name is Trump, you get sued. And you get sort of good at it after a while. It becomes routine. It's ridiculous. But we're building something the likes of which will never be even close to being competed with. The ballroom is going up to there. You see, it's the hardest part is now completed, the base, and it's rising, very substantially rising. And when it's done, you know, the most you can seat is about 93 people in the White House. It was always a problem. For 150 years, they've wanted a ballroom to be built. We don't have a ballroom in the White House. We have a room that's a little bit large, but it's not a ballroom. It's a very small room. We had King Charles here. Everybody wanted to be here. We couldn't hold anybody. But soon you'll be able to. I think it's going to be one of the most beautiful structures in Washington when it's completed. And I've done many ballrooms, and this will be, there won't be anything to compete with this anywhere in the country. And that's what it should have. And it'll use it exclusively only for the White House. But it's really what it should have. When you have heads of state, it's also able to hold the inauguration. You know, the inauguration was so cold that when you have January 20th, it's so cold, the weather, that generally the first time we got by with it, it was good. It was, you know, like 34 degrees. But the last time it was below zero. And you weren't able, so we used the Capitol, and it's a very small space. It's not safe. It's not, you know, it's not, they didn't have drones in mind when they built it. They didn't have other things in mind either. But we were able to get 921 people in, and this will hold many times that numbers of people without the tables as seats, and bulletproof, drone-proof, missile-proof in many cases, and beautiful at the same time, and a big military component, including on the roof, a drone port. Can you believe we have a drone port? And it's like no other. So we're doing a great service. It's great national security. We also take care of a need. Every president said, this is crazy. I'm sure that many of you, along with me, attended. We would have a presidential ceremony of some kind, or heads of state would come in. For instance, President Xi is coming here toward the end of September, the 24th, I believe. And what we need is a big ballroom. We could hold thousands of people to see him. Everyone wants to see him. Same thing with King Charles. Same thing with a lot of the leaders of countries. And now we're going to have a place the likes of which no country has. I was in the Great Hall of China recently, 4 weeks ago when I was in China. They have a very large ballroom, beautiful ballroom. We don't have that, but we're going to have one that tops everything. It won't even be close. The beauty of it and the size will be great. So it's exciting, and that'll be done. Actually, I will get to use it for, people say, he's building it for himself. I'll be using it I'll be lucky if I get 6 months, because it'll be done toward the middle of 28. So I'm really building it for other presidents, but it'll give them great safety. Glass windows that are this thick that can withstand any form of shot, rifle, drone, anyone, nothing gets through. Steel walls, steel ceiling, extra strength. I mean, it's really an amazing thing. And yet, all of that security made it more beautiful, because you have very thick walls, very powerful walls, very beautiful. We've actually taken security and made it a beautiful thing. It looks like it was built from 700 years ago. Like when I went to England, we went to Windsor Castle. It's the longest building I've ever seen. I said to Charles, it was built around like 900. It was a long time. But I said to Charles, who built this? This place is incredible. William the Conqueror. I said, oh, William the Conqueror. Was he a nice man? Charles said, no, he was extremely strong and very tough. I said, I figure with the name William the Conqueror, I would think, what do you think? I think he'd be tough, Michael. What do you think? I said, we have to come up with a good name for you, Charles. Maybe Charles the Conqueror. No, please. But William the Conqueror built a great building. But we are building one that's going to top them all, and it's going to be beautiful. It's gotten great architectural reviews. And more importantly, it got great military. We're doing it in conjunction with the military and the generals. And these are smart, brilliant generals that know exactly what they're doing, what they want. I'm giving them everything they want. And it's really a national security must. But I want to welcome you to the Rose Garden, and today's a historic day as we begin America's 250th year. We're launching what's called the Trump Accounts. You've been hearing about it. And this was something that was made possible because of the great, big, beautiful bill. Otherwise, you couldn't do it. We got it approved. Ted Cruz is here, and he helped us a lot. And I want to thank you, Ted, and to ensure that every American child is born with a head start and a fair shot at the American dream, because by the time they're 18, they could have a lot of money. They go up with the market. Think what would have happened if we invested $1,000 in an account, even Brad and Mike, Susan, if we invested $1,000 in an account a year ago. It's like, would have doubled. And because the market, we're riding the hottest stock market in history. 81 days, I've been here 1.5 years. Think of it, 81 days we hit record highs, including today. A lot of you Wall Street guys, I see Larry, and I see some of the biggest guys in Wall Street, David, Goldman Sachs, Blackstone, BlackRock, they're all here. And think of it, I'm making them all geniuses. Every one of them is a genius. Is anybody doing poorly? If you are, I guess you have a couple of guys that went short. Those poor bastards, I mean, they're in big trouble. They're being wiped out, the short guys. I never like short guys because they're betting against the country, so that's okay. But earlier this morning, many of you joined me in the Oval Office for the ringing of the opening bell and something happened that was incredible. Never happened before. We had the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ, the top of both. These are great people, but they never did a bell and opening together. This is the first time. And there's the bell right there. And I said, it's so beautiful. I'm not giving it back. I don't know if it's supposed to go back, but they're going to have to fight like hell to get it back. We're not giving it back. Do you understand that, Scott? Don't let it leave. It's so beautiful. But that's the bell we rang. And that's where the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ came together, the leadership, brilliant people. And the first time ever, we did it together. It was an opening where we did it together. That's in honor of the Trump accounts, because we're going to make young children born with no money in many cases rich. I think they're going to be rich. But I want to thank Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent, Chairman of the SEC. These are really tremendous people. Paul Atkins. Scott, stand up. And Paul, please stand up. Thank you very much. Director of the National Economic Council, Kevin Hassett, who's so great. Everybody loves him. Stand up, Kevin. Thank you, Kevin. Governors Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who worked here very diligently and brilliantly as my press secretary. She did a great job. Thank you very much, Sarah, wherever you may be. Thank you. Governor Jeff Landry, who called me, he says, you know, we have a crime problem, and they had the Mardi Gras, and he said, could you we want to get rid of the crime, do something, because we have a little bit of a Mardi Gras coming, and we have a little bit of a crime problem. And I think you say it was the safest, where's Jeff? The safest that they've ever had. Is that right? Right? In New Orleans, he said it was the best they ever had, the safest. And the city crime is down 81%. I wish Chicago would call me. If Chicago would call me, I would wipe out crime so fast, would remove the hardcore criminals like I did in Washington, D.C., in Memphis, and in New Orleans. We were not just a question of, you know, we're going to have big, strong soldiers. That's the least, well, it's very important. But we removed in your place, you know, 2,900 career criminals. Many of them came through the Biden administration's stupid open border policy. They poured in. And I just want to give a little extra thing. Thanks so much, Jeff. You're doing a fantastic job. And I'm glad you called, but he called me up 2 days ago, and he said, we just had the lowest crime numbers we've had in 50 years, 5-0. And we haven't even finished the job, but they're down like 87, 85%. You'll be down to 90, 95%. But we removed the criminals. We took them out. We're not letting them stay because they're criminals, and they'll... You know, a great stat that I love, 91% of the crime in cities is caused by 2% of the people. I love that because you can handle that. You can get rid of the 2%. If it was caused by 91%, you got a problem. But 91% of the crime in Washington, D.C., as an example, was caused by 2.1% of the population. These are many career criminals, sick people, mental problems, but 2.1% in the case of Washington. And we removed from Washington, D.C., 4,212 people, permanently removed. Many of them were brought back to their countries. Some were put in jail. Many were wanted. We had murderers. So we've taken Washington, D.C. crime, we brought it down 91%. And it's considered now one of the safest. We're going to do better than the 91 because 9% is even too much. But we're going to bring it back to almost nothing. The only thing we have a hard time stopping is the crime of passion. Do you know what that is, anybody? Was anybody in? This is a group that probably knows something about crimes of passion. But the crimes of passion we can't do much about. Just one of those things. But we have Washington is way down. We worked well with the mayor's office. The National Guard and our military was unbelievable. And in Washington, restaurants were closing. Nobody wanted to eat at restaurants. It was a disaster. When I first came, it was they were losing 3 people a week to murder. Can you imagine? 150 people. And I said, wow. And we really put it into gear. And now we don't have murders. I mean, you have, I guess, but not much. And people are safe. And restaurants are thriving. You can't get, if you're an entrepreneur or restaurateur, you can't get a restaurant. There's nothing available. The restaurants are packed. They used to go in and rob the restaurants. They'd, you know, they wouldn't, you'd feel safe in a restaurant. It was like the old Wild West. They'd say, stick them up, give me your money. The whole restaurant is handing them money. And now if that ever happened, those people would be in deep trouble, deep, deep. We hit them very hard. And we have tremendous military people involved, and they do the trick. And that's what happened with Jeff, with Louisiana. That's what's happened with Memphis, Tennessee, where the governor also called me. He said, Memphis, I mean, FedEx was going to move. And now they called me the other day. They said, you've made it a safe city. I've never seen, people have never seen anything like it. Washington, D.C., every day somebody says thank you. I know immediately what they're saying. Young women that walk to work at White House, they used to take Uber, and they felt unsafe because the Uber car was robbed. And dangerous. They'd shoot people. That doesn't happen anymore. The girls are working to work, and the young guys are walking to work, and the older guys, if they can walk, they walk. Half of them can't walk because they made too much money. A lot of these guys here, they can't walk, but they're rich as hell. But it's such a tribute, and I just wish that I'd get a call from the governor of Illinois, as an example, or the mayor of Chicago. Sir, they've had a horrible 3 weeks, by the way. Many people shot, many people killed, and they just don't want to call. They have to call. All they have to do is say, sir, we need help. I'll straighten it out so fast. San Francisco, I wish they'd call. You know, you have a mayor there who's a Democrat, but he's a good person. He's trying hard, but I told a couple of the very rich people living in San Francisco, they wanted me to give him a chance, and I said, all right, I'll give him a chance, but he can't do the job because he can't remove people like us. We have the law on our side. We can remove murderers. You know, under the Biden open border policy, 11,888 murders were allowed into our country. They're living in a place near you, but I've gotten rid of most of them. Have been either removed or we put them in jail. We've caught most of them. But they came in through an open border. They came in through prisons, mental institutions, drug dealers. You have no idea the drug dealers that came in under Biden. Open border. Nobody checked. They just walk in. And you could look at some of them. You could say, this is trouble. And they'd walk into our country. We remove them. And I wish Los Angeles, I wish Gavin Newsom would call me. I wish Governor Pritzker would call me. I wish the governor of New York would call me. They have tremendous crime, and all of them. And they would go just like Washington. We have the men. We have unlimited number of great men. You know, one of the many things we got was from the Supreme Court of the United States. You know, we went against merit. Merit had no place in our country. So people were getting into college with bad marks, with bad board scores, not great students. And they'd get into college, and people with straight A's, with the highest boards, everything else, couldn't get into colleges, certain colleges, the top colleges. And we won based on merit. We now have a country. Frankly, I give a lot of credit to the Supreme Court on that one, because that was a tough one for them. But we won. We now have a country based on merit. That goes for colleges. You get the best. If you have the highest marks and the best boards and all the things that you need, you don't get on based on race, color, creed, thought, look, height. You get on by merit. And you get into colleges by merit. And you get into the military by merit. So we had a military where we could not sign anybody. Before the election, November 5th, you could not get anybody. They couldn't get them. We couldn't recruit people. Now recruitment has gone to an all-time high. We've never had anything like it. And likewise, the soldiers, they are put in based on merit. Like, we'd like to have strong soldiers. I want my soldiers to be strong physically, and we have strong soldiers. And when the bad guys see our soldiers out on the streets of Washington, and you saw that, Jeff, you were saying, you said, I never saw so many big, strong, good-looking people. And it's all based on merit. So our military's got merit-based. Everything we do is merit-based. And we're not forced to take people that cannot do the job. And I tell you what, that was not an easy decision to make, as you can understand, but that's the way our country grew. We grew based on merit. We didn't grow based on, you know, you got to have XXX and X. So I want to thank all of these people that have been so good, and I want to thank Jeff Landry because you have been you've been a great governor. Thank you, Jeff. I was very honored to have endorsed you, and you avoided primaries, you avoided runoffs, you avoided everything, and you deserve it. Rob Bresnahan is here, Congressman who's been fantastic. Rob, wherever you may be. Thank you, Rob. Thank you very much, Rob. Young, handsome guy. He could be up here someday. Who the hell knows, right, Rob? He's got the look. Along with the CEO of Intercontinental Exchange, Jeffrey Sprecher, my friend. Jeff? That means the New York Stock Exchange. That's another word for New York Stock Exchange and various other. I said, so you own the New York Stock Exchange? He said, yeah. I said, what else? He said he owns numerous exchanges, and I was very proud to see them together today with NASDAQ. But Jeff is great, and he's married to a person who's doing a phenomenal job at the SBA, small business. Nicki Minaj, who's so incredible. They call it small business, Nicki, but when you add it up, it's bigger than any bank probably in the world, right? I don't know. Larry, it's right up there. Small. It's not small business, but she's done fantastically, and I appreciate it. The president, Lynn Martin, NASDAQ, and chair and CEO, Adina is here. So you have Lynn and you have Adina, and they fight each other a little bit. I don't know. Do you fight? Where are you? Do you fight? Not too much, right? Well, you've never gotten along so well. I think there will be no merger, however. I'm going to talk to Paul. Paul, don't let them merge, please. We need all the competition we can get. That's all we need. We get out of this a merger of NASDAQ and the New York. We will not allow that to happen, right, Paul? Also, President Nelson Griggs, you're here someplace, Nelson? Where are you? You've been great. Thank you. It's good to have you. I love the scene of the four of them. The four of them, and the bell is right in the middle, and I happened to be in that picture, but I got out because I wanted to have the picture of the four of them. It never happened before. We also have a woman that is so respected and so hot and so great and such a great friend of, I don't say conservative, I say of common sense. She's not conservative or liberal or, as they say now, progressive. Liberal became so tarnished, but now it's communist. You know, they say social democrats. No, social democrat is a communist, all right, just so you know. There's no, so if you look at the people that are running, it's crazy what they're doing. But we'll never let that happen to this country. It can't happen to the country. You can't, there's no appetite for it, especially since we've literally, now you're going to see numbers coming out over the next 6 months, I think, that nobody will have ever seen before. But she's a fantastic person, and she's a woman that's respected by everybody, and she's got real talent. Nicki Minaj. Nicki, stand up, please. She's such a great person, respected by everybody. Today, 38% of Americans do not own stock, yet we have set 73 all-time records. It's now 82. They're a little bit late with their notes. With Trump accounts, every newborn child will be invested in the stock market. So they're going to be watching. You know, they'll be the next Larry Fink. They'll be the next chairman of Goldman Sachs. They'll take David's place. David will be very concerned about this. He's not going to like it. But they're going to be invested in our country. And it's going to be something. Every newborn child will be in the stock market, and one day you'll see what happens. And if we have good markets, if we have smart presidents, if we have people that know what they're doing, like Scott and all of the people that are that work so hard, all of these children, so many of these children are going to be involved with the Trump account. They're going to watch their account grow. They're going to watch the country grow. They're going to be reading the newspapers. They'll want to go to the financial pages. But parents have to go to trumpaccounts.gov. And many, many people are investing in this, and not for themselves. They're putting money in. As an example, Michael Dell and Susan Dell invested $6.25 billion. Think of that. Not everybody has to do quite that much. And I'm going to wait a little period of time, then I'll see him again. I'll say, well, how about doubling it up? You know, but then he can do it too. Amazing story. Started off making computers on his bed at a dorm. And I won't ask you which college. Where did you go to college? Oh, that's a good one, huh? University of Texas. That's a good one. It's great. We love the state. But I want to really give you a special shout out because of what you've done. You was right from the beginning. They were involved with Brad, and you guys are very special. So I want to thank you and Susan. I want to also tell you that Brad is investing $250 to the accounts of all children under 5 in his home state of Indiana, and that $250 is going to grow very rapidly. That's a lot of money. The head of Micron, a friend of mine, CEO Sanjay Mehrotra, who last week announced that Micron will be making a $250 million investment in the Trump accounts. And I didn't name that account. So it was a whole group of people got together. What's the best name for it? And they came to me and they said, what is this all about? And as soon as I heard it, I said, this is going to really work. And it really has. We're setting records with it. And it's just really now opening the complexity. And Scott, you're going to get this open really fast. You've got to do that really, really fast. Get it. It's just about complete. And we had some tremendous people working on it, but made possible by the provisions that we put in the great big beautiful bill. And I made reference today that Australia has a thing going that's very good. It's really worked out very well. We have good respect for Australia, and that has to do with people that are working people. And it's something that also puts them in much better shape when they're retirement age. So we're going to do that. We're looking at that very strongly. We're going to be taking that, and we're going to be maybe making it a little bit sharper, a little bit even better, but we're going to be doing that. And Scott, you're working on that immediately, right? You and the whole group, Howard, everybody. But already more than 6 million Americans have signed up for Trump accounts, and we've just started, many of which are receiving a one-time seed contribution of $1,000. So these are children, in many cases, extremely poor children, and they're starting off with $1,000, and then it goes up. And it comes out of the United States Treasury with contributions from parents, employees, churches, or generous Americans like these that we're gathered with. We have so many people here that have contributed a lot of money. And I just thought it would be so appropriate to have our first meeting at the Oval Office. It's a special, very special place. No place, I've been in a lot of offices, there's no place like the Oval. In terms of overall impact and everything that it represents, there's no place like it. But the Trump accounts could grow to hundreds of thousands of dollars by the time they reach 18 or 21, or they can leave the account and have it put into a different fund at a certain point in their life. But hundreds of thousands of dollars by the time they turn 18. Think of that. You have a young child with no money, growing up in a rough area, and they turn 18 and they have hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we're going to help them when they get, because you can lose that hundreds of thousands of dollars very quickly if they're not careful. So I also want to recognize all of the outstanding employers who have committed to making contributions toward the Trump account, some of whom are here today. And in some cases, they're adding them to the employee benefit packages, including Uber, Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs, Visa, Robinhood, MasterCard, Intel, IBM, AMD, Rusk Industries, and Steak and Shake, and many others are here, but too many to name, but it's really caught on. A lot of the big public companies are doing tremendous amounts of, they're taking care of all of the children of their employees. Some are taking care of. Brad has picked up a large portion of the children in the state of Indiana. I didn't know he was that rich, Michael. You know, he's a rich guy. I learned about Brad. You're a rich guy. That's a lot of children. Indiana. I won Indiana by 35 points, so I like it. We love Indiana. That's great what you're doing, Brad. But we're doing that. People are picking up states. So for years, Washington politicians have left our children with nothing but debt, nothing but problems. Now, with the help of so many of you here today, we're jump-starting financial freedom for young Americans and helping them to build the future they deserve. And also, there's tremendous, by the way, there's tremendous tax benefit to doing this. You know, sometimes you don't like saying that because it's a nasty word, but there's tremendous tax benefit. And perhaps there's some people that are okay with that, but it doesn't make any difference. There's a great tax benefit. And also for the children, there's a tremendous tax benefit. There is no tax, it's called. I don't know if we can complain. Ted, will anybody sue us because we're giving children a form of tax assistance? You think we'll be sued? Yeah, I think so. Somebody will sue. They'll say, you are giving advantage to a young person who just got $1,000. But you never know, but I doubt it. With us today is Kensley Reedwin, a rising sixth grader, very smart and a budding entrepreneur. Perhaps the next Michael Dell. Where is Kensley? Where are you, Kensley? Who's so standing? Oh, look how beautiful. Good luck. Do you think you'll be as rich as Michael Dell? I think yes. You'll be richer than Michael Dell, right? Congratulations, Kensley. Thank you for being here, honey. But Kensley's been investing her earnings into a 401k. By the way, 401ks are up like 49% in the last 7 or 8 months. And everybody likes me that has a 401k because it's the biggest rise, last year and a half, biggest rise in history. So, you know, a lot of people have become rich by having their 401k. And Kensley, thank you very much. I heard you're doing fantastically well in investing your money into a 401k, but now she'll be contributing to her very own Trump account, and that's going to even be better. So we're going to watch you all the way up. We're going to watch you go up that ladder, Kensley, okay? We'll be watching. So just in closing, it's so great to have you here. A place that we were never able to use because of the conditions of the soil. And now it's become the hottest place there is probably in the country. Every time we have an event at the Rose Garden, everyone just says, yes, we want to go. And you're going to love the food made by the military and the White House staff. And it's an honor to have everybody. But I want to just thank so many minds went into this. Not easy. And Scott's going to work overtime to get the final little touches done so it really kicks in even faster because we're setting records. The numbers are incredible. But we want to get it finished so everyone can fill out their and finalize their accounts, Scott, you and the people. But you've done a great job. And again, thank you all very much. Have a good lunch. Should we put on a little music? Yes? This way you don't have to talk to each other. You just have to listen to music. So we're going to put on a little music, the Trump playlist, okay? And we'll have a little fun. Again, thank you all. This is really a very, I think, a historic moment in a sense, but it's going to be really great. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
And President Trump there speaking at a Rose Garden Club lunch at the White House, describing upgrades to the White House and other moves during his administration, including his Trump accounts for children and efforts to lower crime in D.C. and around the country.